I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today I'm thrilled to be talking about the wonderful movie Good Girl Jane with writer and director Sarah Elizabeth Mintz and actor Rain Spencer. And Sarah, I wanted to start with talking about the journey that this has really taken. This is a film and a project that you've been working on over the course of several years, first conceptualizing it as a short film and then a narrative. And I was really interested in that journey of taking a short film into a narrative feature and really looking at how to take what you'd created and expand upon the themes and topics and the idea of this central character.
Yeah, well, thank you. Um, I conceptualized the movie as a feature first, but I hadn't directed very much, to be honest. I'd like gotten out of film school and I'd worked as a director's assistant for a long time. And the script got into a program at Sundance, and when I was in that program, they gave me a little bit of grant money. So I used that grant money to make the short. And I just wanted to try, exactly, I just wanted to like try out uh, living in the world with these characters. I wanted to try out some things with camera. I wanted to work with Jake Sainer, who is the cinematographer who ended up shooting the feature. And I worked with Lauren Pratt, who ended up producing the feature. Um, I just I needed to get my hands dirty directing actors again because it had been a while. And we shot the short in kind of this out of the box similar way to the way that we shot the feature, which was like a bit of a trial run, like a test run. So we shot the whole short, which I think was like 12 minutes with this in essentially 12 shots. So it's about a shot, a scene, and they're all very like choreographed, handheld, uh, all very choreographed handheld shots with Jake on camera, and I just learned how to manage this world in approaching it in a space like that. Um, and so we kept a lot of things and we got rid of a lot of things, but it was like a trial run overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And Rain, I feel like you bring such a specific energy and emotional space to this character. And I've heard you say that you really tapped into the idea of her being someone who's a little bit more introverted and just doesn't really feel seen and connected to the world around her. And I was interested in how that initial connection to the script really helped you to find that energy and the emotional level of playing her.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I saw certain aspects of my teenage self when I was, you know, just growing up and um um 14, 15, 16, 17, certain aspects of myself that I eventually started to shed as a young adult. And but when we shot this, I was 20, 19, 19 and 20. And so it wasn't that, hadn't been that long. I was like, so it was kind of, um, it wasn't hard to remember, the feelings of being, feeling like isolated and alone, as I think a lot of teenagers feel sometimes. Um, and also, healing isn't linear, like getting away, recognizing that like it's okay for me to take up space and be a part of the world and do what I love to do. And, every room that I walk into, I'm meant to be there. It's actually okay if I'm in that room, I'm supposed to be there. I can take up that, that space and be authentic to myself. But that healing journey isn't linear. It's kind of, like the 17-year-old still exists inside of me. And it really felt like I was talking to her and going back there in that sort of isolated realm in my head. And um, through Sarah's help and Sarah made the space so comfortable and easy, and she made it accessible to go there. I really truly felt protected and safe to go to some like dark places with her and have certain conversations with her. And I felt like through that I was able to actually do some healing.
Yeah. That's amazing that that was the experience. And, you know, Sarah, I think one of the things that really connects in this film is that you have this central character of Jane who really just is kind of trying to figure out how to mask for the world around her and feeling disconnected. But if you look at every single one of the characters that you've developed, they kind of all have that. You know, you have her sister saying, well, I'm not happy either, but I try to smile and get through it. Their mom, and even Patrick Gibson's character, Jamie, to a degree as well. And so when you were working on the script, as you were developing this central character, how did you think about carrying that theme and that idea of just disconnect through all of these characters?
I mean, I probably the most honest way to answer that is that there's a piece of me, right, as the writer writing all of these characters. So I'm approaching all of them with a kind of love and empathy and a bit of like a window into myself who like was trying to encapsulate some of this alienation. I think probably all the characters in all my stories are all sort of grappling with like the same like nugget because it's whatever I'm grappling with at that moment. But I didn't consciously do it. I didn't sit and think like, how do I isolate Izzy? How do I isolate Ruth? They just all were, and they all found each other. They were all in that same transition at the same time.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask both of you about just really finding what you wanted this relationship between Jane and between Jamie to look like, because I think it really captures that element of something where you see why they're drawn to each other and you see why there is this connection, and it's this like really destructive romanticism. You know, there's just like these little broken parts trying to figure out how to piece themselves together. And I thought the scenes really, really captured a lot of layers and textures. And so I was very curious how, you know, as a director and as an actor, you really worked to find that along with Patrick.
Maybe I'll jump off quickly and then um the first piece of it was just finding the two of them, like finding two people that had the kind of chemistry that they had, and so there were chemistry reads between Patrick and a few other young women, and it was just like immediately obvious that these were the two people that should step into these roles, because there is obviously like there's a certain element that just I can't create. I have to go find. So first I had to find that, and then I think they both just I think they worked actually a lot together to build these characters, but they just worked like puzzle pieces. Like both of them naturally on the page, I think are sort of missing similar pieces and have the ability to fill in the type of intimacy for the other person that the other one is looking for. So part of it was in the characters and part of it was just these people really understanding the humans that they were inhabiting and then working together to bring them to life.
I mean, I think number one, Patty is so like as a human, as a person, he is so warm and funny and lovely and approachable. Maybe one of the most approachable people I've ever met. You know, he's just like, you know, so willing to do this. And so that was the number one thing for me, was how open he was and willing to go there and have this sort of like, you know, partnership in the scenes. A different layer to that is it was you know, really important for me to be in the mind space, like in the headspace of the mindset headspace of someone who is so young and impressionable, and it had to be real love for her. To me, I was like, this has to come from a place of true love, of, you know, whatever that means to someone who's so young, you know. And watching it later, you know, I've seen the movie a few times now, and it's really interesting what sort of starts to like unravel just me, you know, the further away I get from it, and the more I'm able to watch it as an audience member. And I think, realizing like, yeah, this is really twisted, and seeing exactly, how twisted it is because he's older, whereas I had to be in the mind space of someone who's like, no, this is my person, and everyone else is wrong. And I think it's like one of the hardest things to like think about as I watch this movie, as I'm watching it as an audience member, because you kind of like, I feel for them. I feel for them, and I feel like maybe this love is real, and also there's like, there's just the different layers to it. And I think that's what Sarah did. One of the things that she did so wonderfully is, I don't know, like I watch it and I'm confused. I'm like, what do I like? How do I like? Like I want to root for them, and I really can't, and I don't, and obviously it's wrong, and all these things. And I think the way she wrote it, and it's so in the perspective of Jane that you're able to see it through her eyes, which I think is just like kind of mind blowing and hard to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it feels like he's the one person that can really bring her to life and light her up. And, Sarah, I feel like you do so much of that through the intimacy of the camera work in their scenes together as well. And so I just wanted to ask about the way that you made specific choices to frame this relationship and the camera as well, and the intimacy of that.
More than anything, I just wanted to capture them without them having to stop and think about anything other than who they were in that moment. I mean, in like, this is not the camera, but it's all related in that, like in a smaller set. I had written Jamie's character with having a different accent. And when Patrick did his audition, he went in and tried that accent. And I remember thinking, and he's a brilliant actor, but I remember thinking to myself, like, he can easily just be Irish. I don't want him to have to think at all about anything other than the character that he creates here. And like, the character was foreign, but it just made sense. I just tried to interfere as little as possible. And Jake and we choreographed shots that were present and very close to these actors, but in a way, hopefully that was just like, not distracting. So I could just grab authentically what they were doing.
And there's a lot of really long takes and kind of like single takes where you're using handheld camera in such an amazing way. I think especially thinking about the motel scene later in the movie where we're moving between the different rooms. We're moving between the bathroom and the main room, and you have all these characters, and there's so many different moments of energy. There's romance, there's kind of all this panic and anger and contention in the room as well. And so what was your journey of really just spending those several months of development and pre-production, mapping out meticulously all of the ideas for blocking, but in a way that you could come to set and really allow the actors the freedom of movement and instinct as well?
Such a good question. And it's also so relevant because we shot this movie over the course of 2 years, actually. It took a long time to get the financing and the script, it took a long time from script form to the set. And then 2 weeks into shooting, we had a shutdown because of COVID. So we shot the movie in March 2020 and March 2021. And within that year, I spent a lot of time editing the footage. I looked at what had worked, what hadn't worked. I rewrote scenes. And Jake and I spent like hundreds of hours reblocking the second half of the movie. And we, some locations we hadn't seen yet. So we would block a whole scene as best we could. And then we'd have to go in and then you find out where you're shooting it. But with the motel scene, because there were so many actors in that scene and it's such a small space, and there are intimacy coordinators and boom ops and stunt coordinators. There are so many people involved in that scene. We weren't actually able to block camera at all before the day. And so that was a huge team effort. And we all did that together. We just sort of blocked it like, I mean, the whole thing is a bit like a play, but we blocked it like a play. Like I had them do the scene a few times, and we just found out like where everyone ended up naturally, and then made sure that Jake wasn't in the way. So it was a lot of moving parts on that one, but it was like absolutely a village to get that whole dance to work.
Yeah, the camera work's so impressive. And Rain, one of the scenes that I thought was so great was the moment where she's in the closet. It's after she's had the fight with her mom, and her mom's essentially gone, "Your music is horrific. I don't know how you listen to this." But it's just in watching you in that moment, that sense of feeling the emotion in every fiber of your being and just trying to figure out how to physically escape from yourself in a way that's not even possible. And I wanted to ask about just filming certain moments like that, because I think there's a lot of her really wanting to escape herself throughout this film.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's so true. And like that specific scene is interesting because I remember you know, there's no words, right? Like there are no lines. It's just what's going on in her head, and being alone and dealing with that pain that she's feeling. And I remember like on that specific day going to Sarah and being like, I don't know, like, you know, I I want this to be right, and I need, you know, I like help me. Um, and Sarah, I don't know if you remember this, but she um she came up to me and she just whispered like one line in my ear, and I was like, okay, like this, it all makes sense. And um you know, it was about like um this specific feeling, you know. She was like, this is why some people use, like, this is the exact feeling that you know, something along those lines. I don't remember the exact sentence, but it just, I don't know, it like really touched me and hit me in a way that I just understood, you know. And I think that was that's like what's so brilliant about Sarah, is like she lets you she lets you go and like find it and figure it out by yourself. You know, she's like it feels like a proud mom. It's like, go and like figure this out, and like you come to me if you need, you know what I mean? Like it's like hands-on, but also like letting these characters live and breathe, and then saying the absolute perfect sentence, you know, that just encapsulates so much. um anyway, that was a special moment. I don't know, that particular scene was a special moment for me that like I won't, it held so much weight to do that.
Yeah, and I love what you just mentioned about having that space to just allow the character to live and breathe. Because even when you and Andy McDowell are in the scene after the court sequence, I've heard Andy say that, you know, her natural instinct was for her character to come and physically comfort you straight away, but that Sarah was the one to be like, no, like don't do it straight away, like give her the space. And through that, we really get this insight into where your character's at before they embrace. And it feels like there's a lot of scenes where you're kind of held a little bit at like physical distance from other characters, or just kind of like sitting in the periphery. And how did that give you a lot of space to really just sit with Jane and kind of find where she was at?
Everything felt so like everything, it was everything was orchestrated, do you know what I mean? But in a way that felt like I almost said like God, like someone is like watch, like everything's orchestrated, but you feel like you're also able to, I don't know how to explain this. For instance, there were certain things like on the courtroom day, you know, I was not allowed to see Patrick. Like, I was not allowed to see him until we were being filmed, and I could actually see him in um his ensemble. Just there were certain things like that that just, it made it seem like I was there. It made it seem real. You know what I mean? Certain like direction that Sarah gave, and ways that she orchestrated this life on and off set up everything to feel like I was completely in this world. Like kind of like the Truman Show. I kind of felt like I was in like,
Lastly, for you, Sarah, I wanted to ask about the intricacy of one of the shots that sounds like it was quite complicated in terms of the setup, which is when Jane and Jamie are in the parking lot and he has that seizure, because you then have Rain's character, getting out of the car, coming around, physically sitting on his lap to then drive the car out of the parking lot, and just even the logistics of having the camera kind of coming down through the sunroof and Rain having to hit a specific spot in terms of where she was driving the car to and where she was stopping. And so I was just really interested in everything that went into blocking a shot like that.
Yeah, that was a really interesting shot also, because for anyone that makes movies or is excited about like what does that looks like, you have to put trucks and crew somewhere. And on a set, there are like a bunch of people on the set that aren't just the actors. And in that shot, because of the trajectory of the car, we see actually like the entire space they're in. It's not like deep focus, but the camera just looks everywhere. And I remember production being like, where do we put the movie that's making the movie? And so and we also, it is also a closed set, so we had to get them far away from everybody and really safe and really closed off. So there were a lot of like kind of like logistical, not silly, but like very practical elements that had to be considered. And then the safety of, we have Jane and we have Rain rather, and Patrick driving, which is another thing. It was like, yeah, again, I mean, this whole movie was just so many people having the same movie in mind with me. Like, just I had such an army to do these things with, but it was very planned out. And then Rain had to, yeah, she had to kind of land at a light that was set up. There were like sandbags and a light, and she'd hit the light so that then we could see the love scene that is about to happen. And if she didn't hit that light, then everything had to get started over, and we don't want that, obviously. And then it's a very small space, right? So it's me and it's Jake and it's Patrick and it's Rain in a tiny car shooting this scene together. I don't know. It's one of the scenes I'm the most proud of, because I really, again, I feel like these two people managed to seem like they are completely alone in this world, and there are hundreds of people around them, and it's really stunning, and you could definitely feel it on the day. It felt very much like, almost like we didn't exist, and we were just in their world.
It's incredibly impressive, and I really loved both of the work that you both did on this film. So congratulations, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.